Welcome to the Baseball Together podcast with your hosts, Blackjack Brad and Briggy Blue Eyes. And now, Baseball Together.
Welcome, baseball family, to the Baseball Together podcast. My name is Brad. I'm going to be co-hosting this ship, co-captaining, co-hosting the show with our guy, Mr. Brig. Brig, how are you today?
Well, I'm great after that introduction. I'm feeling giggly, and you can't beat that.
Excellent.
It's cold, though. It's cold here. I'm over it.
It's cold here, too. We had baseball practice tonight, and there's a storm rolling in. And it was breezy, and it was cold. That's too... Yeah, last Monday night, it was really windy and cold, too. But it hasn't been that way any other night this week, I don't think. Just baseball.
No, I haven't. That sucks, dude. That sucks.
Yeah. The nice thing, though, is that cold is relative, and it's not bitter cold. It's just, chilly. It's, too cold to have my sweatshirt sleeves pulled up, but then, I still get warm, you know?
Yeah.
So, I'm okay with it.
When you're moving?
I'm okay with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it's good.
It's colder than that here, so.
Well, I'm glad it's not that cold here.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into it. Let's do our first things first. We have some Hall of Fame news. I'm sure a lot of people are up on this, but we have not chatted since this happened. So here we go. We're going to lead with it. The 2025 Hall of Fame class has officially been announced and voted in. Your three inductees are going to be Ichiro Suzuki, CC Sabathia, and Billy Wagner. The big news with this is that Ichiro was one vote away from being unanimous because some guy decided he doesn't like A, first ballot Hall of Famers, or B, anybody to be unanimous besides Mariano Rivera. I have a theory on that. We'll get to that in just a minute. Here are the closest misses to getting in. Actually, hold on. Let's talk about this for just a minute. Brick, do you have a problem with this? With this one guy not voting for Ichiro?
Yep. Do you?
I do. I told you though I wasn't super surprised because over the years
Right.
Because over the years, and it's a little different reason for the fact that Jeter and Griffey weren't unanimous as well. Because over the years, since Ichiro has retired, I've heard people say, well, yeah, but look at his slugging percentage.
Right.
Okay, so he hit 357 with 20 home runs a year instead of 300 with 50 home runs a year. I understand the day and age we're playing in right now, but when Ichiro played, you wanted the first one. Even though he was perfectly capable of the second one.
He just approached every at-bat situationally and not slugging.
Exactly right. Which is that's pure hitter, and to me says he was able to do that better than anybody, and should be unanimous Hall of Famer. Okay, so I'm just going to get to this real quick. So I have this theory that this is how this works, is that you have guys who believe that there should be no first ballot Hall of Famers, right, or no unanimous Hall of Famers, right?
Yep.
And don't get me wrong, I'm not bagging on Mariano Rivera when I say this, but I wonder if Mariano Rivera was a unanimous Hall of Famer kind of by accident. Right? Does that make sense?
Okay. Yes.
Because those guilty
I don't agree with it.
Poopy pantsery
I see what you're saying.
And curmudgeonry saying that there should be no unanimous thought, I should vote for Mo because he deserves it. Not everybody else is going to vote for him. Possibly. I'm not saying that's what happened, but I'm wondering if that's why he is the only guy to be unanimous so far, because I don't feel like he was a unanimous Hall of Famer. First ballot Hall of Famer, yeah, but if he is guaranteed surefire unanimous, Griffey, Jeter, Ichiro, freaking Babe Ruth,
yeah, Babe Ruth wasn't
should have all been unanimous as well.
Right.
So that's my theory with it. I'm not saying that is the reason, but I wonder if something like that happened. That it was more accidental than everybody being in concurrence, because, Brig, that doesn't happen.
Oh, no, I know it doesn't happen. So, which is the only reason I'll give your theory any weight at all, because I think it should have been unanimous.
Let's call it a conspiracy theory.
A conspiracy theory. Yeah, I think he should have been. I think Ichiro should have been, and the other two you've named, Griffey and Jeter, especially Griffey, for crying out loud. Like,
Right.
anyway, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
The fact that this happens never and has only happened once until now is astonishing, and it does lend
really
itself to this idea that something must have happened. Something went wrong with the process. Everybody wasn't on the same page this time.
And by all means, he's one of the greatest closers ever. He is
100%.
deserving it. Had one of the wackiest, wildest pitches ever. Guys described it as an optical illusion, right? So, like, I'm not saying he doesn't deserve to be first ballot. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve to be unanimous. But if he is, there are other guys who absolutely should be. So, anyway. But do you think that
fair argument.
There's been a lot of talk, too, about eliminating the anonymous voting process that make the ballots public. Do you think that should be a thing?
No, I want them to stay anonymous during the
during the process, but after.
Well, what I'm thinking, hold on. What I'm saying is during the entire Hall of Fame kind of tour, until we hit Cooperstown and the speeches are given and everything kind of resets, then it's okay if you're going to release the names, but not until then, because I want all the vitriol to wear off. I want all the pressure to wear off. I don't want anybody dealing with anything that they don't have to deal with now under the anonymity situation. So I think that's enough time for it to burn off if you do it midway through the summer.
That makes perfect sense. Well, and then you can't have guys calling out voters in their Hall of Fame speeches.
Yep.
If it wasn't for Jimmy Lipper, I'd be unanimous.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, that makes sense. I like
so
that.
I would
Actually,
wait.
I agree with that.
Thanks.
Eliminate anonymity with a clause. Okay. I love it. Okay, so here are the closest misses. Carlos Beltran got 70.3% of the vote. This is his third year on the ballot. He's up almost 10% from last year. That's a pretty big jump.
That's a huge jump.
Obviously, if he gets that same jump next year, he'll be in. Because he'll have more than 75%.
Oh, yeah.
Math
he
checks out.
75.
For those of you actuaries. Andrew Jones got 66.2% of the vote. This is his 8th year on the ballot. It's about the same as he got last year. It blows my mind this guy has not gotten in yet. What are we even doing here, fellas?
I don't know. It's criminal.
I'm not sure.
And I hope that the vote Ichiro didn't get went to this guy.
It better have.
It better have. Like, this is so stupid.
Unless the only other thing I can think of is maybe they have one person who just like straight up forgot. Like, oh, that was due yesterday.
Right. No, Andrew Jones, 100% should have been in by now. No questions asked.
Yeah. Yep. And then we've got Felix Hernandez and Dustin Pedroia were the only other first-year guys to get more than 2% of the vote. Felix got 20.6. I think that feels like he'll eventually get there, hopefully. Dustin Pedroia got 11.9%. I don't... It's so close, but I don't think he's going to get it.
It's close. Let me tell you about Dustin Pedroia.
Oh, go ahead.
I got some stuff about Dustin Pedroia, okay? We all know that he has an MVP, won Rookie of the Year, 2-time World Series champion, 4-time All-Star, 4 Gold Gloves, Silver Slugger, and a Wilson overall Defensive Player of the Year with a career WAR of 51.9. B-WAR, okay? Here's some context. Billy Wagner, okay, started with 10.5% votes his first year on the ballot. Scott Rowland, 10.2% votes. Okay? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
There's a chance. And I don't think I don't think you count him out just yet. I don't think so. I think the strength of the argument for Dustin Pedroia honestly will come when the comparisons are made in the class he faces with the other names around him at any given year throughout the next 10 years. That's what it's going to come down to for Pedroia. And it will just be contextual, right? It's going to, those other names and those other numbers are going to cast him in new contrast every time, and they're going to have to re-examine him against, because you can't help it, right? You can look at every second baseman in the Hall of Fame, and and that will never change until other guys get in, right? But you can't tell me that the class of guys being evaluated on one ballot every year doesn't provide context for every other name on the ballot, right?
It does. I think you're right.
To me, it's going to come down to who the other guys are every year for 10 years, and we'll see what happens.
Well, and I mean, to that point, we'll get to them in just a minute, but next year's class is not very strong, and so that could really be a good case for him. I think you're right.
Yep.
I like that. I just worry about the length of his peak. Although he was almost like his peak was almost his entire playing time, because he was good from the time he got up until he was not able to play anymore.
14 years, 2018 and 2019 were just awful. He played in nine total games between 18 and 19.
And that's just up and down is all that is.
Right. He played incredibly, up to that point. Like, even in 2013, he led the league in plate appearances. He played 160 games in 2013. That was like his 9th season or something.
Yeah. So the other guys on the ballot for the first time, if you don't get 5% of the vote, you fall off the ballot. So that means the rest of the first-year candidates fall off. That is Ian Kinsler, Russell Martin, Brian McCann, Troy Tulowitzki, Curtis Granderson, Adam Jones, Carlos Gonzalez, and then these guys got 0 votes: Hanley Ramirez, Fernando Rodney, and Ben Zobrist. Were there any surprises this year on the ballot? Like any that some of those guys fell off? Or, I mean, obviously it's still surprising that Andrew Jones is not in, but was there anything about the ballot that surprised you this year?
Yeah, I want to talk about Ben Zobrist, because you can be as driven by statistics as you want, and we can argue his numbers all day long, and I think there's room for that. But he redefined our current view of a utility player, and did so in the spotlight with the Cubs. I think it's relevant to see him in that light, because as a utility player who played in any situation they needed him to, hitched his wagon to that 2016 World Series with the Cubs, there's no way we didn't start re-examining utility infielders based on Ben Zobrist. You can't tell me that's he's not a huge part of why.
Okay. So this is my thing with it, is that yes, he won a World Series MVP, right? Like,
for sure,
that's great. But my thing with Ben Zobrist is that if he's not good enough to be an everyday hold down a position player, then I don't think he's good enough to be in the Hall of Fame. Great utility player, I'll give him that. Like you said, redefine the way that we see a utility player and the way we, I guess, handle it. But I don't feel like you can be. I don't feel like there's ever going to be a true utility player who gets into the Hall of Fame, because the thing about a utility player, like I said, is that they're that position because they're jack of all trades, master of none, and the masters are the ones who get in the Hall of Fame. The jacks of all trade, those guys are not.
I'm not going to argue with you. I'm just saying that we should acknowledge his influence on the game, and there's a lot of people that argue that same thought process in their Hall of Fame candidate discussion, right? We do that. We're like, yeah, King Felix redefined the way we view Cy Young Award pitching.
But he was a master at his position. Is the reason he redefined it.
I agree with you. I'm just saying, like, those words come out of our mouth, right? So we have to at least acknowledge it. And then you have to look at the numbers. And to your point, I think you're right. I think there's no way statistically he belongs in the Hall of Fame. But his influence should be acknowledged. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, I get that. And I wonder how many people, actually looked really closely at Zobrist because of that.
Mm-hmm.
But then simply were just like, I can't do it though because of the position. The
Makes
reason
sense.
he plays the position, and because he didn't get any votes, no votes.
Right, and I hope that he did at least get some acknowledgement, at least a peek,
some consideration.
Yeah, and then, but again, like you said, and based on the numbers I'm looking at right now, yeah, it makes sense.
Okay, let's look at next year's ballot real quick, the 2026 ballot. So we've got newcomers Ryan Braun, Chin-Soo Choo, Edwin Encarnacion, Gio Gonzalez, Alex Gordon, Cole Hamels, Matt Kemp, Howie Kendrick, Nick Markakis, Daniel Murphy, Hunter Pence, Rick Porcello, and Neil Walker. Do you see any of those guys getting in?
I'm not immediately excited about any of them. I think Cole Hamels, we could talk about Cole Hamels.
I think he's the most likely, but he's not. Nobody's getting in next year, that's for sure.
No,
but I wouldn't be surprised if nobody on that ballot gets in.
Ever. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either. I just think you say nobody gets in next year. You're saying none of these guys are first ballot.
None of these guys.
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah, nobody first ballot.
I agree.
Yeah, nobody's getting in. None of these guys are getting in first ballot. I think maybe Cole Hamels eventually. I just don't know if his peak was long enough. I was having a chat with somebody over text. They're like, what about Ryan Braun? I was like, no. Like there are guys who did steroids who were looked at more positively than Ryan Braun who aren't in. Ryan Braun's definitely not getting in.
No,
absolutely not.
I agree.
Yeah, no way.
So Cole Hamels, 4-time All-Star, 2008 World Series MVP, NLCS MVP, career B-WAR 59 flat, 3.43 career ERA. I mean, without getting any deeper, that's decent. You have to get a lot deeper, but
right. And yeah, I don't know. I love Cole Hamels. Like I said, I just don't know if his peak was long enough.
Okay,
so
I'm with you.
That's the big thing. Okay, let's move on. Speaking of pitchers, the Astros traded Ryan Presley to the Cubs. What?
No.
Did you see that coming? Because
no.
I did not.
No. Totally confused.
That is absolutely bonkers to me. The Cubs are going to pay $8.5 million of his $14 million salary in 2025. So good for Houston on that one. That's great. The Cubs also sent he's minor league pitcher Juan Bayo to Houston. He pitched in Class A. I couldn't find if he was high or low A, but he was in Class A last year. One big thing about this trade, Brig, is that this gets the Astros below the first competitive balance tax threshold. So good for them. I called them cheap a couple weeks ago. When I said cheap, I didn't mean in this way because they obviously have spent, but I feel like they just don't want to pay their stars. That's why Alex Bregman hasn't been paid yet.
I agree.
So they paid Altuve, but they gave him a legacy deal. So, But speaking of Bregman and this deal, I saw this deal went down, and a bunch of people were like, "Oh man, that makes that's a no-brainer. That means you got to bring back Bregman." But all this saves them on their payroll this year is $5.5 million.
Yeah, he's not playing
enough to get a deal done with Bregman, is it?
No.
No
That's not even a question.
Yeah, like
you'd have to spike the punch bowl at the party for it to go down that way. Like, there's no way.
So, yeah, I don't know. So let's talk a little bit about Presley, and then we'll get into Bregman, because I wanted to just get that in there first. So Ryan Presley had a no-trade clause, and so he waived his no-trade clause to get out of Houston and go to Chicago. I was listening to Foul Territory today, and they were all just like, their minds are blown by this. They're just like, so this is really weird. I think it was AJ Przinsky was like, is he still that upset about the Hader signing that he wanted out? Do you think that's what this could be?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Because we know he wasn't happy about it. Wasn't happy with being the setup man, with Hader being the closer.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I don't know.
And that begs the question: will the Cubs utilize him?
He's going
in a
to.
closer
He's going to
role?
be their closer. Yeah.
He is? Okay, well,
Yep.
which makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. He's better than anybody that got there.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And he's better in that role than he is as the setup man for some reason too.
Totally.
Not to say he was a scrub as a setup man, but his numbers I feel like are better as a closer.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Got to get the juices flowing, so it's really interesting. Yeah, I don't know, and like I said, I don't think it's enough to bring back Bregman. Maybe now Bregman is a focus. Altuve said that he's willing to change positions if that's what it takes. I've seen people saying that Altuve could go to the outfield, which I don't think that works. I think there's a reason he plays second base.
Yeah.
But yeah, he said that he's willing to do whatever it takes to get Bregman back.
There are at least 5.3 inches or feet, 5 feet 3 inches worth of reasons why he doesn't play in the outfield. Out of the 5'7".
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting in Houston right now, and I cannot help but track it because I'm curious where Bregman goes. I'm curious what else Houston's going to do, and obviously because they're division rival, so I'm tracking. But yeah, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. We'll see. We'll see what happens. See how it goes.
That's wild.
Yep. Okay, let's jump over to the National League East, the Mets. The Mets owner, Steve Cohen, doesn't like how things are going with Pete Alonso. This is what Cohen said per SNY. I'm being brutally honest. I don't like the negotiations. I don't like what's been presented to us. And, listen, maybe that changes. And certainly I'll always be I'll always stay flexible. If it stays this way, I think we're going to have to get used to the fact that we may have to go forward with the existing players that we have.
Oh.
Yeah, so
wah, wah.
Not liking the offer that's put on the table by Scott Boras. Speaking of Boras, Scotty B, this is what he said. This is per The Athletic. He said, Pete's free agent contract structure requests are identical to the standards and practices of other clubs who have signed similarly situated qualifying offer all-star level players. Nothing different, just established fairness standards. By the way, does it get more legalese than standards and practices?
Nope. That's a CYA. Don't pay attention. Don't look too deeply.
Yeah. Well, what is this compared to? It's standards and practices. Just trust me on that one.
Right.
That's
exactly.
Standard. Yeah.
Don't look into it. Just don't.
So I know how I would respond. So I know how I would respond as Pete Alonso. But I'm curious, Brig, how were you responding if you're Pete Alonso to this?
To Steve or to Scotty B?
Scotty B represents you. So
no, I know, but I'd be having
has your best interests in mind.
yeah. Right? Yeah, heavy air quotes on that.
No, Cohen. You're responding to Steve Cohen saying this. That I don't like the negotiations. I don't like what's been presented to us. Yeah. What do you think of your Pete Alonso?
This is the part where the business and the emotions have to be separated. That's the problem. Because emotionally, you're thinking, "Come on, dude! Like, you don't want me? Have we not had a good thing going? Come on now, what's going on here? What is it?" When it's very likely Scotty B, right? But
right.
I would also be feeling at least a little bit like, okay, if you're going to do that with Juan Soto, why can't you throw a little peanut my way, right?
Give me a little bit of that pie. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. You've gone off. You've been popping off for a couple of years now about how deep pockets. We've got the will to win. We're going to spend. We're going to do whatever it takes. And now you're going to quibble. And we don't know what the details are. But if he's feeling like Steve Cohen is out in the public saying, we'll do whatever it takes, and then he feels like he's being quibbled with, then maybe I'd be upset.
Right. Exactly right. That's how I feel. Last week we talked about how the Padres said, we want guys who want to be here. If I'm Pete Alonso, I want to be somewhere where they want me to be.
Totally.
Because, like you said, Steve Cohen has basically said, I'll spend whatever it takes. I will buy us a World Series. I'm sorry. You get worse when Pete Alonso leaves that team. You do not get better without Pete Alonso.
it's a short list of keeping that ballast even.
Even Pete
for
Alonso
sure.
in a down year that he had this last year, you get worse without him.
Yep. I
You
think
need
you're
to
right.
make it happen. If I'm Pete Alonso, at this point I'm just like, you know what?
Cool.
I'm gonna take less, guaranteed, but you're not giving me what I'm worth. You're not giving me a fraction of the Soto deal, and I understand. And you give him anything, it's a fraction of the Soto deal. But I mean, talking
for
like
sure.
commensurate, right? If
Yeah.
you're going to give one guy who plays one position, who comes at to bat once a
Moderately well.
game,
Yep.
moderately well in the outfield,
Right.
that Gold Glove nominees or finalists still blows my mind. And you're going to give him that much money, and you're not going to give me some commensurate level of that. I'm gone, and I'll go take what you're going to give me somewhere where they want me to be.
Yeah, and he has been, he's been a mainstay on the team for long enough now.
6 years.
That you gotta with all the, he's a butts and seats guy with all that polar bear hype.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. That's tough, man. That's tough.
It is. It is. So, I know there have been some people who have been saying, like, there's a chance that it happens, but I don't think he plays for the Mets next year. What do you, or I guess this year. It is this year.
Yeah. I think if it comes down to the dollars, it'll happen. I could see a 1-year deal taking place as, like, let's see if we can mend fences. But probably not. There's no reason for that. Unless they're looking at the down year that he had and saying, like, well, and if they're leveraging that, maybe they'll want to offer
they are.
on their side. They'll want to do it. I don't know. I wouldn't take it if I was him. No way.
That's part of the problem with it is that, like, even though you know what you're getting from a guy, the front offices are still like, well, yeah, but statistically speaking, it's like, well, that was an anomaly, but it's still on paper, so.
Yep.
They
still have
means
to do
that's
that.
something you're capable of. So I have a problem with that to some degree. But anyway, that's probably why I don't run a baseball team. Anyway, let's stick with the Mets. Let's stick with the Mets for just a little bit longer. The Mets got new uniforms, alternate uniforms this week. Again, not City Connects. These are just new alternates.
Yep.
And they're not really anything special. It's just another alternate blue. It uses the same script across the chest that was used in 1987. By the way, only for that one season.
Right.
And it's a blue New York with orange trim. And it's a pullover jersey with a wishbone collar, which means that it comes kind of down together. It's not a V-neck. It's not a scoop neck or anything. It's a wishbone. And it's got blue and orange trim around the neck and on the sleeves. What are your thoughts on this, Brig?
I have 2 thoughts, and I'll limit it to this. First, they're super boring. But I think that the pullover jersey as an alternate is awesome. And I like that we're including those at least every once in a while in the rotation.
I agree. I love a pullover. I think it's if the only reason they're doing it is because they're easier to sell, I'm here for it. Because remember the NBA a few years ago, and this is probably like a decade ago by now, they did the T-shirt jerseys.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's easier to sell a T-shirt than it is a tank top. And so they put them on the court, so it's like you can wear what the players are wearing. The players hated them, so they got rid of them after a couple of years. But my thing was like, I would way rather sit next to a guy in the stands, wearing a T-shirt jersey than a tank top jersey with no T-shirt on underneath it.
Yep.
So I thought it was practical. I thought it made sense. It made perfect marketing sense of why they did that. I think these make perfect sense. I love a pullover.
Yep.
As far as a marketing ploy goes, because it's a great sell.
It's a great sell. I agree with you.
But overall, the jersey itself, I think it's boring. I think it's too plain.
Yep.
And the orange, I don't think is thick enough. You're not going to be able, it's going to be hard to read it on the field. Might be able to read it just fine on TV, but I think on the field it would just look like a blue T-shirt.
Yep. I think the same thing. I agree.
So, don't love it, but I'll save judgment for when I see it on TV because sometimes it looks better. And honestly, my first thought, Brig, was that it was a joke. I thought it was photoshopped because Francisco Lindor was wearing that hat and he had the bill folded, like curled like way up. Yeah. And then, because I've never seen him wear a hat like that, obviously.
Yeah.
And he was holding up this super plain T-shirt jersey, and I was like, this has to be a Photoshop job. But turns out it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
It was legit. Okay. Last thing, the Paul Skenes 1-of-1 debut patch autograph card has been pulled. You can call off the hounds. You can start saving your money again. It has been found. Now, before I get too deep into this, Brig, I want to tell you this real quick story that I heard today. I was listening to Into Baseball Today. This is some perspective on how much these packs cost. Trevor Plouffe wanted to buy 10 loose packs for he and his son to just see if they could find it. He's like, just something to do, just some bonding time. Go through, look at baseball cards. If we find it, great. If not, whatever. We got a bunch of baseball cards. So it's of this specific pack of Topps cards. He was at a card shop, and the guy told him, he's like, how many do you want? He's like, we'll take all 10. He's like, $700.
What?
He's like, for a pack of cards, you're charging $70? He's like, yep. It's a hot item.
What?
Yeah.
That's insane.
It is insane. I'm not one willing to gamble $70 on anything, Brig.
And you gamble.
I do. I literally gamble American dollars on sports. You do. But I will say there was that one time I put 100 on a Kopech game, and that paid off. But that's it. That's it. I mean,
yeah,
that was the one time.
Amazing.
It's a one-off. But
this is astonishing.
An 11-year-old kid in LA pulled the card.
Yep.
And he decided he's going to send it to auction. He's not going to take up the Pirates on his offer. Because why would he? Right?
Well, did we talk about what the offer was?
We did, yeah. I'll put a link up to the video.
Okay, good. Because I thought we talked about it again. Yeah.
We did, yeah. And so, but my thing with this is like, did the Pirates think, like, did they assume that it was going to be somebody in Pittsburgh who pulled this? Did they think the Topps was going to be like, this is the one, let's send it to Pennsylvania, make sure somebody local gets this? No, it's not how that works.
No.
Obviously.
No.
So
I think they screwed the pooch, what they did. Pittsburgh, they blew it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that they thought a little bit too highly of themselves. Yep. I think what they should have done. Okay, here's the thing. The company I buy my beard care products from just did a giveaway. They did a fully loaded $120,000 Ford Raptor or $80,000 in cash. Or, Brig.
Yeah.
Or.
Perfect.
The Pirates, if they really wanted to get this card to Paul Skenes, they could have been like, we'll give you all these things or commensurate cash value. Maybe a little bit less. But
it's got to be less. 30 years of home plate tickets, like you're going to come in less than that. But
yeah, but still, offer a pretty penny for that card.
Yeah,
you're way more likely to get that card to Paul Skenes than you are if you offer all this exclusive Pirate stuff that you can just write off.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there's a chance, Brig, that card might get pulled by an 11-year-old who lives in LA.
Right. Almost as far away as possible.
Yes. They're lucky he didn't live in Hawaii.
Right. Right.
Because at least there was a chance. Maybe we'll send a private jet. No, we're not going to send a private jet for 30 years. The kid will only be 41. He's going to use all those tickets. Burn up the private jet. But anyway.
Now, I think if
that
you
was really
were
interesting.
If you're smart and you're the Pirates organization, you're looking at mom and dad's LinkedIn and seeing if you can employ them and haul them over.
There you go. Yeah.
That's what
Make somebody a special assistant to the GM.
That's right. How do we get them here?
Yeah. Yeah. No, he sent it to auction, though, so he's going to get some money for it, which good for him. He will never have to worry about paying for college.
That will be the best decision for him. I support him all the way.
Absolutely. Yep. The baseball family, let us know what you think about that, because I just thought that was hilarious and a little bit poetic that this kid from LA pulled this card that I think the Pirates are banking on being pulled in the Pittsburgh area, despite astronomical odds of that happening. But let us know what you think about that, because I think it's hilarious. Also, while you're online, head over to ChinookSeedery.com and use code BTPOD to save 10% off your order to get yourself some sunflower seeds. Baseball season's coming up. You're going to want to have them. Trust me on that.
We're about 60 days away from from opening day.
Opening day, Brig, yeah.
Yeah,
not even
opening day is about 60 days off.
Yeah, very excited. I can't wait.
Yeah.
But baseball family, thank you so much for joining us. We will catch you later this week.